Teachers of Reddit, what is the biggest holy shit red flag of any kind you've seen from a student? Taught second grade for a while, had a female student who always wanted to peek down people's pants to see what color underwear they were wearing. Had a few serious talks with her and her mom, and she eventually stopped doing it. Turns out that she was being sexually abused at home, and her father and uncle used to do that to her all the time. Another teacher of hers in 4th grade picked up on it and reported it. To this day, I hate myself for not picking up on that and dismissing it as a weird kid edit. Thank you for all the support, kind internet strangers. Clarifying a few things from some of the comments received. The reason I'm extra hard on myself is because I actually considered abuse while debating how to bring this up with the child. But set that aside because she didn't show any other telltale signs of childhood sexual abuse. She was fairly well adjusted with other children socially. While not the most academically gifted child, she was always trying hard and answering to speaking in class. Quite confident in speaking in front of a class of 8-year-olds. So I disregarded potential abuse based on these factors. I live and taught in a country in Asia where there isn't a lot of government or police support when it comes to cases of molestation. Yes, even child molestation, and no concept of a mandatory reporter. The police, judiciary, and society do not deal with it well, either because of logistics or apathy. I couldn't just make a report to err on the side of caution unless I had something to base it off. From what I know, there were some potential issues that her 4th grade teacher noticed and had a conversation with her mom about. The teacher had the girl speak to a child psychologist, and this came out. The mom did not know about any of this happening. When they figured this out, the mom moved out with the daughter and another young child and is separated from the father. They have filed a case with the police. I'm unsure about any further details. I left the school very soon after and moved to a different state a few years ago and found out through an ex-colleague. Edit 11 months later. After this post brought back some memories, I did some digging through ex-colleagues and the school to try and find out what happened to this student. The father was eventually charged and is currently in prison. Her uncle, the father's brother, was absconding, and I don't think they've caught him yet. The mother moved back to her hometown with the girl and a younger sibling, and they have been there for around 2 years now, and she is currently enrolled in 8th grade in a local school. A fellow teacher of mine tried to get the girl to go to counseling, but they discontinued it. Again, I don't have enough details about why and how she is doing now. I've answered once here, but I'd managed to push this other student out of my brain. Let's call him Brian. Brian was a 6th grader. Brian was, on first glance, a classic case of look at me disease. He constantly needed to be the center of attention. He needed to be liked, but he was also very sensitive. He had been in my class for about 2 weeks when he first broke down crying during a lesson. I pulled him aside to talk privately and asked him what was the matter. "Mr. Bones, these other kids just don't understand. I'm not trying to be annoying. I've had a hard life, and this just make fun of me without knowing what I've been through." He said all of this through big, wet tears. I really felt for the kid and tried to make him feel better. He continued. "When I was in 1st grade, I saw my younger sister get shot in a drive-by. It happened right in front of me. It was so awful," and then just full-body heaving sobs. This was literally my first month of teaching. I wasn't prepared for this, but tried to do my best for the kid. I had someone from the office come get him, and in my free period following the class, I called his mother. The way she responded with such nonchalance chilled me to the bone. "Mr. Bones, my son Brian lies like a rug. He is an only child. He's only ever been an only child." I'm thinking to myself, wait, what the fuck? But what about the tears? I asked her. She said, when my son was 2 years old, he'd sit in front of the mirror and make himself cry. He'd practice it over and over, and I would tell him to stop it because he was scaring me. I just didn't even know how to respond to that. I can't even remember how we wrapped up the conversation. The next day, Brian starts crying again in class. I pulled him out and I told him about the conversation I had with his mother. He raised his head up, his face stained with tears, and he has the biggest smile on his face as if you told him we were going to stop at McDonald's on the way home. Not elated, not benign, just pure waxy-faced nightmare fuel. Since that day, I pegged him to become one of those kind of serial killers who burns through a ton of different identities. I actually came across some social media posts years after the fact. He's a drug dealer now, so I guess that's better than face-eating murderer? Edit. Well, this became my highest rated comment in my 5+ years on Reddit, so I will try to answer all the most common questions, comments here. Brian cried maybe once more in my class after that day, but he seemed to realize that I wasn't going to fall for it. I do believe him to have been a sociopath, not a psychopath. It wouldn't surprise me if he was still a sociopath. This was easily the most manipulative kid I ever taught. In spite of his mother's comments to me, he still had her fooled most of the time when he got in trouble. She often claimed that Brian's teachers had it out for him. Yes, he might also be a face-eating murderer. I concede that I can't know for sure. Yes, he probably would have been a great actor. We didn't have a drama department jerk class in our middle school. I was working in the inner city at a school that was falling apart literally and figuratively. Yes, pegged. My real name is not, in fact, Mr. Bones. Lots of parents don't get their kids the help they need for a variety of reasons. Sometimes they're shitty parents. Sometimes they work crazy hours to raise a kid, several kids on their own, and get overwhelmed. Sometimes they're in denial. I can't really say what Brian's mom's case was. She meant well, but I think it was easier for her not to confront the path her son was going down, hence the whole drug dealer thing. I won't reveal exactly where I worked, but it was name-checked in California Love by Tupac. It bones for thee. A few people have called this fake and/or called me a lying cuck. I taught several years ago for a short period of time. Average burnout time for teachers is 3 years, so be kind to your kid's educator. They see your kids more than you see them. That said, here's a picture of my desk from that first year. I am not Brian. I haven't seen Split, but I'm pretty sure Brian was not in it. He's too busy running Dat Trap House. Not all Brians are evil, just the ones who replied to me to tell me that not all Brians are evil. Not all Brians nonchalance, actually. I teach middle school math. We have a Saturday school once a month for students with failing grades to get extra help in whatever subject. One kid did not want to be there, and he was placed in a conference room in the office so he didn't disturb the other kids. So this kid pulled out a tooth, an adult tooth. He pulled it out of his face. It was terrible. I remember a kid in 5th grade that would shit in his pants, reach down there, pull some out, roll up little dookie balls, and throw it at the other kids, all the while laughing like he was having the time of his life. That's gotta be some kind of red flag. Edit. I'm not teacher, by the way, but I saw the question and instantly thought of this kid. I was in the 5th grade in 1980. The protocol for handling this kind of behavior in children is probably different now. Hopefully, he got some help. This was a long time ago. I'm not a teacher, but was doing a co-op placement as an educational assistant when studying sociology. We're talking like 15 years ago, give or take. Had a student in the class, with behavioral problems, mind you, walk up to another teacher who was pregnant and proceed to tell her he was going to cut the fetus out of her. Nobody really knew how to react, and the tone in his voice, look in his eyes was up there with the most evil shit I've seen up till that point in my life. My friend teaches and told me this. He had a student who constantly picked at his scabs. He would rip them off and eat them, then lick the blood off his fingers, then pull alcohol swabs out of his backpack and clean the wound while smiling creepily. He made everyone feel super uncomfortable and grossed out, but no matter what, he wasn't removed from the class. Finally, one day, my friend comes back from the teacher's lounge to find him using a letter opener under his skin and moving it back and forth, blood everywhere. When asked what he was doing, he said his skin itches and it's best to get it at the source. The kid was finally removed from the school. My friend never found out where or what happened to him, though. My friend runs a swim club for kids. She once got a complaint from some mothers that one 8-year-old boy was performing fellatio on some 6-year-old boys in the changing room. The kid wasn't allowed to come back, and it turns out that his grandfather molested him. That's where he learned the whole thing. This happened to me in kindergarten. Nap time was the worst because we had to pick spots on the ground with our blankets. And this one boy would follow me around until I found a spot and lay down next to me. Then he'd ask me to kiss his wiener and try to kiss me too. The teacher would just yell at me to hurry up and pick a spot, but I was trying to get away from him the whole time. I finally told my mom, and my parents told the teacher. Turns out another girl left this school because of the same problem with this boy. The school basically told us there's nothing they could do and that my parents could send me to a new school if they wanted. And that's the story of how I started going to private school. Don't know what happened to that kid, but looking back, it's clear something wasn't right at home for him to know that stuff and act on it. Edit. This was 1996 to 1997 for everyone curious. I still remember the details very vividly. It was straight up like this 5-year-old kid wanted to have oral sex with me. I know his name, but Googling it doesn't help. I'd like to think this hasn't affected me in any major way. I mostly feel bad for him because he had to learn that somewhere. Thank you for watching. Write comments, put likes. Do not forget to watch other videos.